Hi guys. This week, this video is a little late, sorry for that. This week we're going to talk about notes. Script consultants, script doctors, whatever they want to call themselves, people that you pay to read your work and give you feedback. I'm going to start. I don't use those services, don't like those services, don't truly believe in them in the way that the industry has been set up and the way the industry works. It is valuable to always get feedback on your work, but the way that they sell it, as in that they are a step in this process, is untrue. Here's my background. Here's my thoughts on the matter. And it's what makes me believe that this industry of notes is a little bit dishonest. As soon as you say to them, or as soon as you talk about the notes are not really being needed, or they're not part of a writer's process, they're not necessary for a writer, they will automatically misconstrue that and say, well, you're going to get notes from a producer and a director, aren't you? Of course you are. They're your customer. And they'd ask you to make changes. I've made heaps of changes for things. Nicola, the producer at Too Hot Films, The Valley, when they first got hold of it, was written, I read it back in 2015, well before the pandemic. It was a pandemic, post-apocalyptic pandemic film. Believe it or not, it didn't have enough pandemic in it. So when they were trying to raise money, a European backer said, if you make an environmental catastrophe, not a virus, we're willing to give you money. So she came to me and said, make it an environmental catastrophe. So we rewrote it to make it an environmental catastrophe. So the idea of heading for quarantine became the idea of heading towards a town that had hydroelectricity and still had some civilization around it, that all crops hadn't been killed off, and we'd set it in Europe rather than somewhere with Midwest America. But that's a producer. That's someone with a checkbook. They aren't some person who is going to give you notes and then says that relationship between a writer and a director, or a writer and a producer, or a writer and a studio is the same as them giving you notes. Completely different thing. And they also co-opt some of the industry words to give themselves credibility, like you'll get a recommend, consider, or pass. Think about that. Who are they recommending you to? Who are they telling that you should be considered? And why are they passing? And the other thing they've done too, rather than take the writer and the script as a package, they say, recommend the writer, consider the writer, pass on the writer, or recommend the script, pass on the script, the three things. That's a really good way of keeping these ambitious amateur writers hooked. I'll give you a recommend on the writer, but a pass on the screenplay. But I can help you get that screenplay up to a recommend if you give me enough money. Perfect sales pitch, perfect way of phrasing it to make sure. Now, people that really like getting notes, and they go to all these famous services and they tell you the score, they post it on Stage 32 or Reddit or some other forum. If you say to them, if you ever question notes and say, well, I don't take them personally, they go, well, obviously you don't want to get ahead. And the reason they're so defensive is because it makes them feel safe. It makes them feel secure. I'm getting this instant feedback that tells me I'm improving. I'm not yelling into the void in a hope that one day getting some success. I'm getting these incremental pats on the head. How dare you challenge that? So those people will push back on you. The other one I love is when you say, okay, who have you worked with that your notes have helped them? I can't tell you. I work with A-listers and they make me sign NDAs. Really? You couldn't say, well, 7 writers worked on Ant-Man, and one of those I consulted with his version. That's a 1 in 7 chance. But no, you've signed NDAs with all these famous people. Sure you have. Notes serve a purpose. They're educational. It's a way for you to learn, to give your script to someone to get feedback. Give your script to someone, get feedback. A bit like entering screenplay competitions. You get feedback. It's a way of learning, but consider them as an educational tool. They are not a step in your process. I listen to lots of podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that. And I was listening to On the Page with Pilar Alexandra. And she was talking to one of her students. And they'd been working on a screenplay or a script or a pilot together for a couple of months. And this person said, well, I sold a deal to, and mentioned a streamer. And she got all excited for him, which is really nice because, you know, she's a nice person. She said, oh, is that the one we've worked on? And I went, oh no, something else. And you could hear a little bit of a, oh, in her voice. She was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't the one that she'd worked on with him. But if notes and getting script consultants' advice guaranteed you success, that would have been the one that sold. But it sort of proves that it is an educational step, because getting these notes from Pilar had made this person a better writer, we must assume, and that got them the job. Notes people tend to be a misrepresentation of the truth as well. They will tell you what they believe based on some book, on some standard, on some catch journey, save the hero type thing. They need to grade you to an acceptable standard. They can't grade you to being outstanding. They can't grade you to being great. Jackson Pollock's Blue Poles are just stripes of paint up and down. The Australian government bought that for a bucket load of money, and everyone was crying foul when they did it in the 70s. It's worth a whole lot more now, but it was an investment for the National Gallery. But if you handed somebody a canvas with just blue stripes up and down it, they'd think you're an idiot. But in 1975, I think it was, they paid $6 million for it. That's when a house was worth about $20,000 a year. So it was a considerable amount of money for a Jackson Pollock painting. They could never teach you to be that. They couldn't teach you to write that sort of screenplay. They couldn't grow you. Only you can grow you. Only you will get what you need to be. And they're not in the process, okay? There's you, there's representation, and there is a producer or a director or a streamer. There is someone that has that relationship with that part of the thing, and then you have a relationship with them. Getting notes from these so-called professionals isn't in that process. It's not true. Oh, okay, you finish your script, you get your notes, then you go out to the industry. No, you get it as good as you can, and you go and sell it. You don't need these people in the middle. These people are addictive because they keep giving you this little dopamine hit. Oh, well done, this is improving. Try this, try that. Oh, this is so good. This is the very best we can say they've done is they've gone and read a lot of scripts to understand what is good and what is bad. If we say they've done their homework, but you see it on forums, oh, I've been trying for 3 years to sell a script, I think I'll become a consultant. If you can't write a script that sells, you can't tell people how to write a script that sells. I can't teach you to cook if I can't cook. Maybe a script consultant is someone who is really good at writing. Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, for people who didn't know she was a great writer, was a great novelist, but also a magnificent screenwriter. And she used to come in and do that sort of stuff. But she'd already written novels. She already was a great actress. She understood story. She wasn't a failed something else that thought she'd give it a go. Notes are educational. They're not part of a process. Most of the people, and even if you say, oh, this guy here, he worked as a development executive at so-and-so, insert name of organisation, okay? If he was a great development executive, he'd still be a development executive. Wouldn't be out charging amateur writers a couple $100 to read their script and give them notes. The best notes you can get, I believe, are from fellow writers. If I rarely, when I do, give notes to somebody, I'll be up front. I'll say, look, I might only give you notes for the first 5, 6, 10 pages, because if I see a huge style problem or a huge problem in your story or a way that you're even telling the story, I'll stop there, because I can go right through your story and it's going to be me repeating the same advice over and over and over. If you implement this, if you want to implement what I think would be a way of telling your story in a clearer way, it's going to completely change your script. So by the time you get to page 90, it's point me reading page 90, because your page 90 in the future won't even resemble the page 90 you have now. It's like driving down a road and someone says, take the left. It's no good me keep telling you all the landmarks that are on the right, because once you take the left, the journey's going to change. They're the sort of notes I give people. I won't read your entire script and tell you what you need. And it's rare that I read people's scripts. So super rare that I read people's scripts. So notes. They're a bit of a scam. They really are. There's some very nice people, but they're involved in an industry which is a scam. They prey on amateur writers with the promise of getting them closer to being a professional. If they're honest, they'd say, look, I'm going to help you, and some people do this, some people do. I'm going to help you improve your craft to get it as best as you can. I'm going to help you improve the script you've got. I'm going to help you be a better writer, with no promise of, I'll put you on some magical list or some email blast. Who reads emails? Or I'm going to, put you on my list, or you'll get on my special screen board on my website of all the best writers for the month, and yada yada blah blah blah. They just say no, it's an educational thing. I listened to Jacob Kruger's podcast. He just gives lessons and just gives notes and tells people these are classes, and he also has free classes on Thursday nights. He's a teacher. His notes are for education. 100%, not some I know the secret back door. If you put the word cabbage in the third sentence, that'll get you read. No, none of that sort of garbage. So stay away from notes. Notes are not a step. There's a whole scammy note industry. Treat them purely as education. And like teachers, they're not all good. It might take you a little bit of money to find the one that works for you. But I'd much prefer, try to find people you trust. What I do, I wrote a horror story. It's not my wheelhouse. But I've got a niece. At the time she was 18, she's now 26. I knew she liked horror. She watched it with her friends a lot. They used to have like a movie night and watch horror films. So I gave her my horror script to get a horror audience feedback. And she told me like, oh, that messes with my head. I don't understand that. That's not really horror. This is more... And she gave me all this sort of feedback. And she told me all this stuff that worked and didn't work. And that's what you want. You want to understand what people feel about your story. And no takers don't do that. They say, oh, you're using a lot of... This is paraphrasing. Shouldn't use we see. Your script will be thrown across the room straight away. You're using far too much passive voice. Your speech isn't direct enough. You're creating a document. As long as your document reads well and gets the story across, because, hey, I've never watched a crap film and then heard the director or the producers in a Q&A say, oh, but the document was great. You wouldn't believe how good the document was. We had to make the script even though it was crap. Doesn't happen. Your story is king. Okay, guys. Until next week, go over to griffithscreative.com.au, like, subscribe, bell icon, all that sort of stuff. That would be fantastic. I'm putting these out. I missed Friday because between you might have seen my little brown dog walking back and forth in the background in previous videos. That's Charlie. He was 19. He was just getting sicker and sicker, and we had to do the kind thing for him. It upset me for a day or two, so I missed Friday, and I'm putting this out on Easter Monday. So today is Easter Monday in Sydney. Like I said, Griffiths Creative. Find me over on Craig D Griffiths on Instagram if you want to follow me there. Griffiths Creative can drop a comment. The new book, Tools and Rules, Tools Not Rules, is coming out soon. I hope you found this helpful. I hope it's sort of steered you away from relying on notes because they're not real. They're a thing. They're an educational tool. And until next time, keep writing. Bye, guys.